So this is part 3 of the information for June 28th. And we're talking about CaveatEmptor, let the buyer beware. What are the limitations of the information that we get from regression lines and from the regression table outputs that we've seen already? Okay, so let the buyer beware. I've been telling you that stars are an indication of how much we believe that our effect is not flat, is not zero. So in the case of Anscombe's quartet, we believed that the slope of that line was in fact positive, that it was not zero. And the more stars that you have, the more confident that you are that it's not zero, the more confident that you should be that the estimate reflects the real world in the sense that it is positive. Or if you had different sets of data, you might say that it was negative. But this gets confusing because stars are also called statistical significance, which is also associated with p-values. All of these terms are indicating very similar concepts of uncertainty, but I get particularly riled up about significance because when we say that things have more stars, it is very common to say that because we have a higher confidence that the slope of that line is positive, not zero, or negative, not zero, that means that the result is more significant. But more stars does not mean more important. You can have an extremely small effect size with a lot of stars, and we're going to see that in just a second when we talk about bacon being a carcinogen. And yes, bacon is a carcinogen. The question is, do we care? Is it important? The more data that you have, the more precise your estimates are, the more certain you are going to be about the slope of a line. But it turns out that if you're very precise about a very, very flat slope or a very shallow slope, you can be very confident that there is an effect that is very, very tiny. So in layman's terms, statistical significance means importance. And that's the English term. Statistically significant in English means important. In statistics, it just means how much do we believe that the effect is not zero. It's a belief, and it's a belief about the slope not being flat. So I believe that eating more bacon causes colorectal cancer. I believe that we are very confident that there is a positive association between eating more bacon and getting cancer. But I'm not sure whether I think that a 0.05% increase, higher chance of cancer from eating bacon once per month, qualifies as important to my life. Maybe statistically significant, but it may not be substantively significant to how I implement it in my life. On the other hand, I believe that smoking causes lung cancer. This is a very statistically significant relationship. It's also a giant relationship. I am very sure that having a 9.1% higher chance of having cancer, so going from 0.4% chance of getting cancer over my lifetime in my current status of not smoking and never smoking, to a 9.5% chance of getting cancer if I became a moderate smoker, that is very important. I do not want a 10% chance of getting lung cancer. And I'm drawing this example because there was this fabulous quote that went around the internet back in 2005 when the World Health Organization declared bacon to be a carcinogen. And this guy named Ted Underwood, who is a great writer, said that a stubborn love of bacon just taught more Americans the difference between p-values and effect sizes than 100 stats courses ever could. So there are a bunch of people who loved bacon and heard that bacon's a carcinogen and said, wait, should I care that it's carcinogen? And absolutely shockingly, the answer is kind of reasonably, maybe you don't care that it's carcinogen. Because it being a carcinogen only means that there is a statistically significant, believable positive slope, not that that positive slope means much in the real world. So here we have my best drawings of this. I did this in Paint. And so this is not real data, but it is based on real numbers. So on the left-hand side, you have the estimated chance of colorectal cancer. This is data for a 50-year-old man. And on the y-axis, you have the percent risk that somebody has of getting colorectal cancer based on population, estimates from a population. We're very confident that this slope is positive. But it turns out that if you go from not even ever eating bacon to eating bacon twice per day, 2 slices of bacon per day, you go from having around, as a 50-year-old white male, from having around a 5% chance of getting cancer with no bacon to around a 6% chance of getting cancer if you eat bacon absolutely every day. If you eat bacon once per month, How much of a change does that actually make in my chance of getting cancer? It's probably statistically significant. Do I care about it? Well, I personally have decided no, I'm going to eat bacon every so often. Not every day, but every so often. Your own judgment may vary. I'm completely on board with anybody who decides to avoid any chance of getting colorectal cancer. Really fascinatingly, and here gets to another piece of interpreting data, is that even though you get a higher chance of having colorectal cancer, you don't actually have a harder chance of dying, which is kind of fascinating caveat about those numbers. So interpretation, which numbers you chose to focus on, always influence what story you tell. On the right-hand side, you have the estimated chance of lung cancer, and this is both statistically significant and incredibly meaningful. Me, a woman, I have a 0.4% chance of getting lung cancer, having never smoked in my life. If I became a heavy smoker, I have pretty close to a 20% chance of getting lung cancer over the course of my lifetime. I'm gonna avoid that one. So that is the presentation. We've already been talking about how to align with graphics. The rest of this presentation that I'll put up has a couple more graphics that produce compelling lies, but we'll leave that for homework 2.